Good morning. So it is Friday, and my stay here is almost finished. Not quite, but there's been some interesting things that have happened the last couple of days. And so I wanted to kind of talk about those. So I'm going to talk about the first thing that happened this morning. Which, if you watch the video from earlier in the week, you will notice the light that was blinking up above me. Somebody brought that up, and I was like, yeah, there's been like several lights blinking in the house all week. So I just assumed it was the light bulbs. And then suddenly, after somebody called that out this morning, the light bulbs that have been blinking all week have stopped. So either they got my attention or whatever. But anyway, one of the things that I wanted to do this week, like I said, I felt like my stone side of the family was very heavy energy in this house. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was go into meditation and talk to my Grandpa Stone. And I was going to do it yesterday, but my divine masculine took up that whole meditation, which is a whole other story. And so I want to talk about the one that my grandpa and I had this morning, which was really freaking awesome if you think about it. So I have, if you don't know much about my history, I started doing past life readings about 5 years ago. So I can get up into meditation really fast, and I can just like turn on that switch. And I have learned how to get into meditation within 30 seconds, and I'm in conversation with people from the other side. It just blows my mind how fast I can do that. When there was a point in time that I could spend 20 or 30 minutes thinking about my grocery list and this and that and the other, and I have fine-tuned this meditation stuff to perfection. So I go up and I go up to see my grandpa, and in the room first is all of my Stone family, and they all just wanted to say hi, and then they all left, and so it was just me and my grandpa sitting there. And I said, Grandpa, I said, I feel like a lot of this fear that I brought with me into this lifetime comes from the Stone side of the family. And he was kind of like, oh yeah, that fear, that has come down from centuries, long, many things that have happened over thousands of years. And he named off a few just to kind of give me some ideas. He's like the time that our village got burnt down by, the dark forces or whatever, where they came through. And at that time, the homes were made out of grass and dirt and stuff, and not brick and mortar. And how, here comes the cat, and how they came through, torched everything. We as in the Stone family bloodline lost our house, we lost all of our farm animals, and he said basically the only thing we had left was some potatoes that were buried in the ground. So obviously that would put a lot of fear into your body, into your system, and that, gets passed down through generations. And he said, and there was the time that I, Jody, was persecuted for trying to tell people about the vast power of the universe. And at that time it was not acceptable. And basically he said, you're really lucky now that you can do what you do and not have anybody try to stop you. And so we were talking about fear and where it comes from, and he kind of showed me something that I've never thought about before, and that was the main thing that I wanted to share with you guys, was how little fear and the dark forces are compared to the vastness of the universe. And he kind of, showed me, he goes, the power of the light is so much bigger than we know, because one, we've never been taught, and we've never been shown how to access it. And of course, the dark fear that crops up all the time, he goes, it's about equivalent of like someone saying boo to you on Halloween. He goes, that's really how little fear is compared to how big the universe is. And once we learn how to tap into the greatness and the light and everything that is available to us, then that fear is going to keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it was just so cool the way he explained that to me, because now I have a visual in my head. So when something crops up that maybe scares me, I will be able to see in my head that there's, this little black dot of fear, but this big bright light of, the universal power that I actually has way more power to, knock the fear out. And then at the end of that, I said, well, is there anything else that I can do, to help? Oh, one of the other things he said, I said, well, is this fear like genetically encoded in my body? And he said, one of the things, I went through a lot of physical, weird purging things last year, where it always seemed, I thought it was because I was eating or drinking something that my body was not tolerating. But I don't believe that's the case now, because I went back to doing some of those things and the stuff that was happening has stopped. But there were 5 or 6 different times that about 6 o'clock in the evening, something would take over that felt like I was getting the flu. My muscles, and I would just ache all over, and my energy would just like go down really bad. I did not get a headache. I didn't get nauseous, but that physical feeling of when you have the flu, when every ounce of your body hurts. And it would just like put me down, and I would go to bed and I wouldn't sleep because I just hurt so bad that I couldn't go to sleep. But about 2 o'clock in the morning, the worst of it was over, and then it was like it would start dissipating and I would start getting better. And by the next day, there wasn't any physical symptoms. I might be a little tired because I didn't sleep the night before, but I never got the flu because I never threw up or anything like that. I didn't have other physical symptoms of the flu, and that happened to me, I know, about 4 times, hard, heavy hit. And then the last 2 times that had happened last year, it was very minor. And then I haven't had that happen for several months. And he said that was kind of like some DNA coding fear. Like it was just some releasing of some stuff has been in our cells that's passed down from generations. If that makes any sense whatsoever. So the last thing I asked him before I closed out this conversation was, I was like, well, is there anything else that I can do to, keep this fear to a minimum? Is there anything that I'm doing that might make it? And he was kind of like, no, you've got a pretty good grip on it because you have realized that it is mental. The fear is mental. And you really don't have the fear in your body anymore. He goes, but there was one thing that you could do that, and he's like, think about it, just think about it. And he goes, and so I'm just saying, this is what came through. And I'm just saying, think about it. I'm going to think about it. I don't know. He goes, anytime you eat animal products, you are putting in fear in your body because most of them had fear in them when the processing happened or whatever. And all he just said was he's like, think about it. It wasn't like a lecture or anything. And I was like, okay, because I eat a lot of cheese and I don't eat as much meat as I used to, but that does kind of resonate with me a little bit because now I kind of look at meat much anymore. And I just kind of like, I used to eat a lot of meat and I eat a lot less than I used to because I'm getting to that point. So maybe maybe there's some value to that. I don't know. I'm just telling you. So I'm going to stop this here because I've got 2 other things I want to talk about and I don't want to make this an hour video. So I'm going to do them separately, but that's the main one. That was the one that happened this morning with my grandpa about the fear. And I really, really liked what he had to say and how he gave me a perspective on how to look at fear and for it not to be so scary. So that's one. And so I'm going to clock off now and I will start doing some other ones.